Alright, welcome everybody. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate the steps that need to be taken in order to remove swirl marks from your vehicle finish. So some backstory before we begin. I purchased this vehicle used a few months ago and understood that the finish had some minor imperfections on it caused by regular use. I think there was two different individuals who leased the vehicle separately, and the vehicle had just over 60,000 miles when I purchased it. I'm a little bit more practiced in the mechanical aspects of automotive understanding, but I have some experience for finishing too. In this video, I'll elaborate on the basic steps that need to be taken to remove swirl marks from a vehicle finish, while giving an explanation on some of the deeper concepts also being presented as we move along. So let's start with the name of the video, removing swirl marks. If you don't know what swirl marks are, they are the rings that you might see on the finish. When I say the finish of a vehicle, that's just the exterior paint. So when you're, looking at the vehicle and you can see the reflection of the sun moving back and forth, you can sometimes see those halo-like swirl marks that are moving with the reflection. That's what those are. There's a variety of ways that swirl marks can appear on a vehicle, but the more common reason is the use of automatic car washes. The brushes that are used on a vehicle can do a number on the vehicle's finish when considering the creation of swirl marks. Oftentimes you can see patterns left after continued automatic car wash use, which is what my vehicle essentially had. That is what motivated me to make this video, because like many of us, I wanted the exterior of my vehicle to look just like it rolled off the assembly line, which is usually the goal of an exterior detail, more specifically. So that being said, managing expectations is something that's important when considering what condition you want your vehicle's exterior to be in. For some of the imperfections I'm going to show you, I would need to take a more drastic measure to return the finish to like new. So just kind of keep that in mind. Something else worth noting is that the place I bought my vehicle from, I believe, had intentions of performing an exterior detail, but didn't quite get around to it. You'll see some paint pen marks that are kind of on my vehicle through some of the videos, and some hand etching into like the surface, which is, I think, a trick that some detailers use to determine how deep they need to go when they're performing a polish before they sell a vehicle, or at least while they're doing a exterior detail. The paint pens, those are used to fill in some of the chipped paint where there's exposed primer, usually caused by road debris of some kind. And I'll talk more about some of those concepts as we move on with this video. I also will change strategies. I re-evaluated my process as I was unhappy with my initial results as I was doing this, but let's kind of get started with the video here. First step that you're gonna need to take is washing your vehicle. I'm going to show you the methods that I use, that I have learned from a variety of sources. I'm also going to use a variety of products, none of which I specifically recommend. I'm not here to sell any products or push any products. I'm just using some of the things that I would commonly use. Later on in the video, I'm going to switch to some higher quality products, and I'll explain why I did that at that point in time. So I start by pouring about 1 to 2 ounces of soap per 1 gallon of water. And so you kind of have to think about that with the items that you have. And I use a bucket, as you can see here. You don't need to pour a lot of soap when you wash your vehicle, like I see people do sometimes. You just need to use the right amount. Read the directions. The excessive amount of soap might be too aggressive for your finish on your vehicle, and also you are not being very efficient from a financial perspective if you're just dumping soap all the time. Save. I'm also using an automotive car washing soap, which is designed for vehicle finishes. Soaps not designed for car washing might have a much higher concentration and can be much too abrasive for vehicle finishes, so don't use like dish soap. I'm going to have a stack of microfiber towels set to the side that I will use to wash my car. I specifically use microfiber towels because they are less abrasive compared to the other types of cloth. I also have a stack of them because I will use only one at a time, where once it's too dirty, I will put it in the dirty towel bucket. And I do this so I don't spread dirt around my vehicle as I am washing it. If you use one bucket and one sponge, you are more likely to have dirt attached to the sponge, which can cause more finish imperfections, along with having your soapy water continue to get dirtier and dirtier every time you need to re-soak the sponge. With my 2 buckets, one with clean soap, one empty, I'm ready to soak the vehicle with water. It's important to rinse off any larger dirt particles before I start to use my soapy towels. If you need to, you can use a higher pressure to remove larger clumps of dirt, but if you're going to use a pressure washer, just make sure that it sprays around 1500 psi. Too high of a pressure can end up damaging your vehicle's finish, which is what we don't want to do here. Once the dirt is rinsed off, then you can start to use soapy towels to wash down your vehicle. You should try to start from the top and work your way down, because gravity will carry the dirty particles down. So to be more efficient with your time and prevent the need to re-wash areas, use this method. I did not start with my roof for some reason. I usually like to kind of hit areas as I move around the vehicle. So I try to work section by section, and this is kind of why I did what I did. Do what you can to remove any dirt or debris from the exterior. For the next step, it's going to be much easier and much more efficient, and we'll go over that in a second here. I do end up drying the vehicle, which can help with the next step also, but in some scenarios, you can kind of leave the vehicle just rinsed off. You'll see. In the earlier part of the video, I do some things that are not essential to swirl removal, such as washing my wheels and tires, and some of the interior panels and hinges, but I just wanted to clean the vehicle as I'm doing this, as it's important to. After washing the car, or step 1, is complete, time to move on to step 2. Step 2 is using a clay bar to remove any finer impurities from the vehicle's finish. These are particles that a microfiber cloth is not going to carry away. Here are some of the contaminants that you are trying to get rid of when you use a clay bar. This is a special type of clay product, so you can't use any random clay to perform this specific service on your vehicle. Depending on the kit or product that you buy will determine how you perform the clay bar process. Most of the time, there's going to be a wax spray of some kind that is used with the clay bar to allow for that debris removal process. You will probably receive a few blocks, like I did, and you only need to use an amount that creates a disc that's about 4 to 5 inches in diameter. This kit came with a microfiber cloth also, but I'll just use the microfiber towels that I already have.
Okay, you never want to drop this on the ground. You gotta pick up all the dirt, and I would just be scraping the dirt all over my The car, excuse me. Making a good flat surface, enough so I can start to use this on the vehicle. And this is just going to pick up any of the impurities. Oh! Oh! And now it's toast.
Now once you're done with that, show that to the camera. You just stay there, stay there. There we go.
What, you don't want me to keep going like this?
When you are using the clay bar, you will use the wax spray on the surface that you're about to work with, and then work the clay disc back and forth over the spray. You'll feel the clay disc pulling away the impurities as you're moving the disc back and forth. And then once the surface is clean, the disc will essentially just glide back and forth over the panel with little effort.
There's really no impurities on here yet. But we'll see how things keep moving along here. I am supposed to wipe it all the way, so perhaps I can do a section at a time. I will just store you right here. Fold you.
And once that level of smoothness is achieved, you'll wipe away the excess wax spray with a microfiber cloth. It might take a while, but this is incredibly important before you begin the cutting or polishing process. The vehicle might already look showroom ready, but the swirl marks will still remain if you just do this step up until this point. So now I will pull up a graphic that'll show you the different layers of finish that make up your body panels. A vehicle will start with multiple layers of sealants and primers to help protect it from corrosion. And then after this, it's ready to receive its base coat, or the color that you're actually seeing on the vehicle. And after multiple layers of base coat, it'll receive a clear coat, which is the layer that makes the vehicle so reflective and shiny. It's on this layer that we see our swirls on our vehicle's exterior. And so if you want to imagine the vehicle's surface like on a microscopic level, those swirls would be little canyons making their way through the landscape that is your vehicle panel. And light will reflect on those canyons, those little canyons, which makes the swirl marks that you're seeing when you're looking at a vehicle panel.
Finish the car wash, finish the clay barring on the vehicle to get rid of as many imperfections as we can before we start this polishing process. I'm going to start with my tailgate for the time being.
And so now, before moving too fast, it's important to consider something before we start this process on our vehicles. Depending on the age and condition of your finish, you may not be able to perform this process on your vehicle. A tool that can be used to determine if you can perform this process or not is a finish depth gauge. This will tell you how much finish you have that you can work with or buff away when you are performing this process. First, start by taking a few measurements across the surface that you are cutting or polishing, look for any strange inconsistencies that might indicate that this panel was refinished at some point in time, such as if you see a much thicker area versus a thinner area throughout the panel, which can change how you perform this process. After you've done that, determine that things look normal, you are going to take a reading at your door jamb, which is generally a place that does not receive as much finish compared to other larger exterior panels on your vehicle. So if those numbers are too close, you need to strongly consider if you're going to remove any more finish, for it might be beyond the point of polishing and needs a complete repaint job of some kind. If you have clear coat degradation or a matte finish, you should not cut or polish your vehicle. If you have some sort of protective film on your vehicle's exterior, you need to be extra careful and consider the thickness of the film versus the depth of the swirl or scratch mark that you are considering working on. Even though the vehicle is only 4 years old and has no reported accidents, I've taken my depth gauge readings and I look ready to go. You can tape off parts of your vehicle if you're going in tighter spaces and trying to avoid plastic trim, or if you want to avoid getting wax or compound on other parts of your car. I chose not to. I'm not really near any plastic trim pieces, and I'll just wipe away and clean off any excess buffing material afterwards. Make sure you're wearing safety glasses. I also recommend wearing an apron because polish and compound are going to fling everywhere onto surrounding surfaces. When performing this process, you want to put a few dots on your pad that has been coated in the polish that you are intending on using. When you are ready, start by spreading your polish around your panel using a lower RPM, revolutions per minute, so it's less likely to scuff your panel. After you spread some polish around initially, now you can increase the RPMs to about 4,000 when using a dual action polisher. I took some risks with my original decision to use a cordless dual action polisher kit, but nonetheless, this is a good example of how to perform the polishing process on a vehicle. With the DA polisher kit, I also purchased the third step of a 3-step polishing kit for the polish that I'm going to use in my video. It was somewhat of an experiment going into this with the specific items I used. After a few passes, I was not entirely getting the results I wanted, and it was frustrating, and it just forced me to go back and think about what I was doing with this process here. So after reflecting, I decided a few things. One, I was going to use a corded dual action polisher, for I ran through the batteries of that cordless kit much quicker than I anticipated. The polisher also did not provide enough power, I felt, to efficiently perform the process that I was going through. And then a third concern was the pads that I was using from the polishing kit. They didn't really seem to be of higher quality for what I was trying to do, and so with that, I purchased 4 new pads that are from a credible polishing system. Each of them range on the amount of cut that they have or how abrasive they are. And there's a total of 7 of them. I'll put up a picture here, but I only bought 4 once again. If 1 is the most abrasive and 7 is the least in the system, I have pads 2, 3, 4, and 6. In the refinishing industry, always stick to product systems. For my 4th concern came up after considering the better quality pads. If I'm using a pad for more cutting than polishing, then I probably want to use a rubbing compound, which is going to be step 1 from that 3-step system that I referred to earlier. So I purchased steps 1 and 2 in that 3-step system, and I was ready to move forward. Still with my tailgate, I started with the green pad, or pad number 3, or the heavy polishing pad, with step 3 of the system to form a sort of baseline. with my different equipment. After I made my pass, I decided that I can go with the medium heavy cutting pad, or pad number 2, or the orange pad, with the step 1 rubbing compound. I think with this step is where I finally start to see some noticeable difference with what I've been doing, but there are still some noticeable surface marks. They did not seem to be deep enough to cause more intense refinishing, so I decided to make another pass with pad number 2 and step number 1 compound. The panel is looking good, but I still see some marks. I try to feel these marks with my finger, for if you do, then the scratches are too deep for the polishing process and you need to take a different approach. After 2 more passes with pad number 2 and compound number 1, perhaps the more noticeable marks have disappeared slightly more. Something that I did off camera was blow out my pad with compressed air. You are supposed to do this so you can get rid of any hardened compounds or polishes that are stuck to your pad. Reflecting now, I probably could have gotten away using a heavier cutting pad, or the yellow pad, or pad number 1, or even a wool pad perhaps, but I was just being extra cautious, not wanting to possibly ruin the finish of my vehicle, meaning that I probably spent more time on this specific step than I needed to. Next, I went with the medium light polishing pad, or the white pad, or pad number 4, with the step 2 polish. I am satisfied with my one pass, accepting that I will not get rid of some of those deeper marks for now, and I move forward. Now, I am using the finishing pad, or the black pad, or pad number 6, with the step 3 polish. Though my video did not so clearly show, the word buff that was etched into my panel was gone, and the tailgate looked considerably better. It wasn't perfect, but the majority of the swirls were gone. Now we move to my passenger side roof, where I started with the pad number 2 and compound number 1 again, now having somewhat of a game plan. I make 2 passes in the larger area of my roof behind the sunroof glass, and then I make 1 pass in front of the sunroof glass, for it wasn't as bad. By the 3rd pass, you can see some of the hardened compound. It's clear that I need to blow out the pad after 3 passes. I decided to not use the polisher in the slimmer areas of my roof with my 6-inch pads, for I have 3-inch pads that I intend on using in some sort of future video, maybe. I do the same thing on the driver's side roof, and I capture my first pass, but at this point, my GoPro battery dies, or I run out of storage space on something, sadly. Now, we move on to the hood, where I decided to divide it into 4 sections. There are these body lines that are about 6 inches apart from each edge of the hood, which made it logical to kind of work on these sections alone. Having to move across the ridges to reach the middle section of the hood just kind of seemed undesirable. This might be the only decent shot I got of a side-by-side of the polished and unpolished parts of my hood, but it was still not very good. I did get a shot of blowing out the pad though, for I noticed that some more hardened compound was starting to get tossed around towards the end of the last pass. You can also do this with a detailing brush that has thicker bristles to get rid of the hardened compound on your pad. I did some more inspection, and once again, there are marks or scratches and some small rock chips that might need more than just polishing, but the once lingering paint pen marks and the majority of swirls were gone. I think at this point, it was the third day I prepped my vehicle for this process, and I was ready to spend less time on one pad and more ready to just move through the system. So I now used pad 3 with the step 2 polish combo, which I had not used before. After this, it was pad number 4 with step 3 polish, for I think I was still ready to take off a little bit more than less, but also prepared to give it an incredible shine. 3 passes later, and I'm done with the hood. So my before and after shots are not the best, but they are not the worst. Another title for this video could have been how to remove bird poop that is embedded in your paint. And this is the same method that you would use, which is the polishing process. But that is the process that you can take to remove swirl marks from your vehicle exterior finish. This is a process that took a considerable amount of time and money, so let's take a deeper dive into those concepts. Now that you know how to remove swirl marks or polish the exterior of your vehicle, the question is, should you? I'm going to talk about what you specifically need, again, to help you determine if this is a task that you should take on yourself. Or is it better to have somebody else perform this process or this service on your vehicle? So number one, you need a source of water. I'm not going to calculate this cost, but if you don't have water, you really can't perform this service. Perhaps you can go to a car wash and then drive back and perform the service at home. The extra variables make the whole process much more difficult though. You'll need a hose, probably about $10. It might be a given. You might already have one of these at home or wherever you are. You need this to transfer water. You need a nozzle, probably another $10. Might be another given. Needed for spraying water onto the vehicle surface. You can use a pressure washer, but that might be an extra $300 or so, or you have to consider the PSI once again. You need gloves and safety glasses, I would say, about $10, needed for safety purposes. An apron, $20, optional, but truly should be worn. Car wash soap, probably about $10, needed for the initial cleaning of the vehicle. A bucket, $10, at least one, needed for retaining soapy water. Microfiber towels, probably about $15, needed for applying soap, perhaps drying and removing polishes and waxes. That was on the low end. You might need more than that. A clay bar kit, $25 on average, needed to remove surface impurities that can't be removed with the car wash process. Rubbing compound or polish, probably $60, needed to perform the exterior polishing service. Dual action polisher, corded one more specifically, probably $80 if you don't have one already, needed to perform the exterior polishing service. And then pads, $50, needed to perform the exterior polishing service. Detailing brush, $5, needed to remove dry polish or compound from the pads after making passes when performing a service. So adding all those up, that's about $305 just in items needed to perform this service. That might seem like a lot for something that might not be as much of a concern for some people. It's also tough when the average price for an exterior detail is around the same cost. You might have a lot of those listed items already, so the upfront cost might be cheaper, but these are things to consider. Another thing to think about is the amount of time it takes to perform these services. Washing your exterior will probably take around 30 minutes if you are efficient. After that, you need to clay bar the areas that you are going to work on, which it might take another 15 to 30 minutes. Then you need to perform the actual buffing services on your selected panels. I made, I believe, 18 passes in total, averaging about 10 minutes each. So another 180 minutes. So in total, I spent 240 minutes performing the services that I did. So 4 hours. Remember, I didn't even complete my whole vehicle, and that was just the tailgate, the roof, and my hood. This might be concerning if you don't have a garage that you can use for these services. These are not services that you can perform out in the sun. As the day progresses, sunlight hits from different angles. You might need to move your vehicle or stop the services entirely if you are in direct sunlight. If you are trying these services for the first time, I would maybe recommend practicing in a more inconspicuous area before going straight to your hood and going at it. My last note that I'll leave with you is something I said already earlier, and that is managing your expectations and stick with a game plan. There are numerous types of finish imperfections that can be dealt with, such as orange peel, industrial fallout, rock chips, etc. Each has a different strategy that can be used to repair them. This video focused on the swirl marks left on my vehicle, most likely from automatic car washes. Don't be afraid to spend time looking into the different surface imperfections on vehicle exterior finishes and then how you can go about repairing them. Thank you for watching this video, and have a great day. And thank you, Paul, for taking the high quality videos that we're seeing in this video. Bye now.